So welcome, our brilliant and beloved colleague, Baijul. We so appreciate your consistent leadership and solidarity. And as always at SETC, we begin all things by giving thanks to our creator, by giving thanks to the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We give thanks to all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We give thanks to all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So, Baijul, can you please introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers and share a bit about your remarkable work?
Yeah, for sure. And first, I would like to thank you, Victor, and thank you to your entire team at SETC for giving me this opportunity to share my story with the communities and with the individuals who are listening to this. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm Baijul. I'm the Director of Data and Digital Strategy with Ontario 211 Services, which is a coordinating body funded by the provincial government to deliver 211 service for the people of Ontario. So that's about my professional life. Uh, Diving more into how I landed up here. So I have spent more than a decade working at the intersection of not-for-profit and IT. I'm originally from India and I'm a newly minted Canadian citizen. So I spent a decade working in the not for profit sector, both in Southeast Asia as well as in North America, and identifying how can technology be an enabler to serve the communities to the best of our ability with the different community and social services programs that we cater. So that has been my personal motivation when it came to deciding what do I want to do in life? How do I make a meaningful impact? And I decided that dedicating my knowledge through my engineering background and identifying ways in which the digital inclusion can enable sustainable development. And that has been the key motivator for me personally as well as professionally. And that's what we are here talking about. So.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. And every time I connect, I learn more and more about you. So once again, I just appreciate your candor and all that you're doing for so many. So my next question is, what's inspiring you right now in your work? What has you curious or what's keeping you up at nights?
Well, a lot of things have been really motivating, Victor, and it's difficult to, pick one among the rest. So, like, you'll hear an elaborate answer from me. One is definitely the community impact that my individual work, as well as the collective effort of me and my team, bring together to serve the people of Ontario to the best of our ability, has been one of the biggest, I would say, motivator when it came to my work as well as the communities that we are serving. Especially, like, I mean, for those of you who are not aware, 211, it's a vital community service, which is a helpline that operates 24/7 and it connects individuals with the community programs or the social service for which they are looking for. So, may it be seeking mental health support, may it be finding affordable housing, may it be getting a referral for a food bank. We maintain almost 60,000 programs records, and that's provided by more than 30,000 agencies within the province of Ontario. So, amount of data that we collect and the impact that it brings to individual lives, that has been the biggest motivator. As well as when I hear about these technology advancements, especially AI being the buzzword right now, natural language processing being the buzzwords, how can those be effectively integrated more from a service delivery standpoint and like identifying innovative ways to do that? Like that's been really our biggest motivation. And also, just like any other not for profit in Canada, we too have limited budget and limited resources. So, how do we be more agile in our approach? How do we make sure that with the limited resources that we have, our approach is as innovative as possible when it comes to problem solving? So, when I look at some of those everyday challenges which come into play, those are my biggest motivators at work. And personally speaking, I'm a mom of a 2-year-old toddler. So, also showcasing an example that mama can do it all. She can work, she can be a mother, she can run the household. Like, just by doing that, by showcasing that example to him, although he's too young to understand, but eventually, once he grows up, I'll have that story to share with him. That, like, personally, as a woman, it has been, I would say I take immense pride in my work, but I also take immense pride in being a mother. And the intersection of the two has been the biggest motivation for me.
That's absolutely incredible. Thank you so much. And once again, I just appreciate your candor and transparency around your family life and being an inspiration to your child. Like I remember those years of having a 2-year-old. All 4 hours are grown up. But once again, it speaks to the importance of intergenerational collaboration and charting a path that really leads to impact, but also you can share that impact journey with those coming behind your ascendant. So I really appreciate you and all that you do for so many. So my next question is, what challenges and barriers do you face in your work, and what are some of the approaches you and your colleagues are taking to overcome some of these challenges and barriers?
I would say, Victor, the biggest challenge, especially I would say, like many other not-for-profits, we are facing is around cybersecurity and data privacy. So, although we do not collect a lot of sensitive information, we do collect some personally identified information. So, looking at the sensitivity of the information that we are collecting for the vulnerable communities that we serve, I think that has been one of the biggest challenge, especially when it came to charting out the cybersecurity and data privacy framework. And there is a lot of work out there in the market from which you can extrapolate from. But like considering the nature of our work and especially with the limited resources that we have, how do we make sure that we are safeguarding the data of Ontarians to the best of our ability? That has been, I would say, one of the biggest challenge, as well as that's something which keeps me up in the night personally. And also, like, I mean, the hackers are becoming really sophisticated in the way they are trying to do a breach. We recently experienced a email security breach with one of our leaders, and I mean, although we were able to like mitigate it and have a robust incident response plan in less than 2 hours, but still, it's those moments of crisis which just make the nature of our work a little more difficult compared to other corporates out there in the market. So that's been one of the biggest challenge. And again, when we look at some of the cybersecurity framework and policies that we have in place, a lot of them are more from a preventive maintenance approach. But when incidents like this happen, you have to be reactive. So, in a lot of ways, it's unanticipated. And okay, how do you put your day to day work aside and just focus on this? So, I think that has been one of the biggest challenge for me and my colleagues, as well as when it comes to the resources and the limitations that we have. I mean, like any other not-for-profit, we have limited budget, limited human resource capacity. And it's like we want to aim at the sky, but we end up reaching at the treetops. So that has been a barrier in a lot of ways, especially when we look at technology enhancing the service delivery of 211. Now, technology comes at the cost, and those are fixed costs that you're catering for. So we want to do a lot of things, but like we end up on a shoelace budget. So those have been the challenges that we face more from delivering our service to the best of its ability, and how do we make it more efficient. But also one thing that has hampered, and like that is something which we have learned for quite some time, is the access to the 211 service. Because when we are serving the people of Ontario, all of them, they come with varying levels of digital literacy. So how do we make sure that technology is not a bottleneck for them to access the 211 service? Right now we have 4 service delivery channels. We deliver through phone, through email, through text, and through chat, but also making sure that they are able to access the technology to the best of their ability. That has been something which has been our driving force, as well as a barrier that we have faced constantly. So, yeah, that's where we are at this point in time.
Incredible. So do you have a set of key priorities right now in your work you'd like to share or amplify with our listeners and our viewers?
Yeah, for sure. So definitely the key priority is to make sure that, I mean, as Steve Jobs has once said, like it's not about faith in technology, but it's about faith in people. So putting the human back into the human services, keeping the people of Ontario at the center when we are taking any decisions when it comes to the 211 service delivery or identifying ways in which we integrate newer technologies to our work. That has been the biggest priority for us. So recently we have launched something that we call the community panel, wherein we have invited people who have used 211 service when they were in the time of crisis, and based on their lived experience enable us to identify what are some of the gaps in our system and how can we collectively mitigate that, and having an empathetic approach in general, because at the end of the day it's not about technology or buzzwords like AI and natural language processing. It's more about the people. So that has been one of our biggest priority when it comes to taking any decision that we make, to building an ecosystem within the not-for-profit sector, because a lot of us, we are doing siloed work. We are duplicating a lot of efforts, and like if I were to put it in plain words, we are reinventing the wheel. So how can we mitigate those gaps and mobilize our knowledge, especially when it comes to my individual work as well as that of my team? It's focused at the intersection of data and digital within the 211 service. So how do we mobilize that knowledge to similar not-for-profits and government agencies doing the kind of work that we do, and make sure that we are being more efficient and effective in our approach? So those are definitely key priorities. And also when it comes to just technology, like being equitable and inclusive in our approach and making sure that the technology that we are integrating with the 211 service delivery, it's accessible by everyone. And like may it be, people from different lived experience, from different age groups, they're able to effectively utilize the 211 service at the tap of a button. So those are definitely some of the key priorities on which we are focusing right now.
That's very helpful. Thank you so much for all that context. And I love the brilliant quotes and the putting the human back in human services. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
So
Thank
my
you so
second
much.
last question is, what is your ultimate goal? And what does success look like and feel like to you and your colleagues?
Yeah, so definitely the ultimate goal for my team is to have enhanced data analytics for our work internally, because we have been in the data curation phase for quite some time now. So it's more about dissecting the data and like understanding the stories and the patterns that it's trying to tell, as well as making sure that our data is interoperable and the way in which we can share it with policymakers and governments to take evidence-based decisions based on the story that our data is telling. That is one of the ultimate goals that we want to reach. We have been into various partnerships with a lot of provincial government bodies as well as with academic researchers and policymakers. But like our ultimate goal is to create an ecosystem wherein the data is as interoperable as possible, and especially in times of emergency and crisis, like they are able to take informed decisions. So that's our ultimate goal when it comes to the data side of things. When it comes to the digital technology side of things, as I mentioned earlier, it's about making sure that the technology is accessible, and how do we adopt an inclusive approach when it comes to integrating technology with our service delivery. So you don't have to be a techie, or you don't have to be, a person within the age group of 20s just to utilize the 211 service. Like anyone and everyone should be able to do it. So having that human first approach is the ultimate goal that we want to reach as a team together.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Baijul. I so appreciate all the work that you do. So my last question, do you have any closing thoughts or calls to action for our listeners and our viewers?
Yeah, thank you, Victor. Well, I have a lot of closing thoughts, but I mean, brevity is the soul of the way. So, in the interest of time, I'll keep it short. One, to all the listeners who are listening to this, my biggest request to you would be to stay informed with all the technology advancements that are happening in the outside world, and especially understanding what that looks like for your individual work. And when you have done that very first step, I request that based on your individual ability, advocate for technology advancement in the not-for-profit sector because it has to collectively come from us. We cannot do it alone. And making a strong case for integrating technology and building digital resilience within the not-for-profit sector is something that I request each and everyone who is listening to this to help us with, because we need to create an ecosystem wherein we have shared resources, affordable resources, which can be very well integrated with the individual work that all of us are doing to collectively make an impact to the people whom we are serving.
Indeed, indeed. And you are making an impact. Every time we connect, I always feel inspired and I leave the conversation feeling whole. So once again, I just appreciate your consistent visionary leadership, your solidarity, and the remarkable authenticity you bring to this work. And as always, at SETSI, we close this conversation, this interview, the way it began, by giving thanks to our creator, by giving thanks to the original stewards, the various lands around. We give thanks to all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We give thanks to all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. Thank you so much, Baijul. I so appreciate you, fam.
Thank you so much, Victor, for giving me this opportunity and letting me share my voice and vision. Thank you. That means a lot.